All right, we are adding rational numbers. Now you may be asking, well, we just did adding integers the other day. Isn't that the same thing? Well, actually it's not. Integers are positive and negative numbers. Rational numbers would include fractions and mixed numbers and decimals. So we're including all of those things in rational numbers. Now, let's take a look here. I have an instruction page included that shows you how to make the foldable. And the foldable is going to go in here in your notebook. I believe this is page 20 in your interactive notebook, if I'm not mistaken. Now, of course, we get our I can statement up here. I can solve problems by adding rational numbers. We've given it a title up here. Now, to secure this, I'm going to make sure that these two top flaps up here are open. Okay, so I'm going to open those up, and I'm going to take a strip of tape and tape across there. So if this was some tape, I would run a strip of tape right there. But I would make sure that my flaps were open. Because if this flap is open out here, oops, let me do it this way. If this flap is open out here, right like that, and this flap is open out here like this, then you're not going to be taping them down. Okay, so I'm taping across there, just underneath there. So this whole thing should be able to flip up so we can take notes inside there. And the notes that I'm going to show you are the notes that we're going to actually take inside of this thing right here, of all under this area, underneath here and all this area. Because we're going to go over how to add and subtract. Well, we'll do a little bit of each, mixed numbers and fractions. Okay, so let me clear off my board here. And let's go to town. Okay, so for example, let's say I've got a fraction here. You get a little bit different color, something a little bit more interesting. Oh, blue is always nice. So let's say I've got 5/8. Wow, that is much, much too large. All right, let's see if I've gotten it smaller now. Oh, looky there, 5/8 plus a negative 2/3. 5/8 plus a negative 2/3. Okay. Now, what you may remember is that you cannot add or subtract fractions unless they have a common denominator. So the best way to do this is to list the multiples of each denominator. Now, when I'm talking denominator, I'm talking these numbers here. So my multiples of 8 would be 8, 16, 24, and I'm going to stop right there. Multiples of 3 would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and then 24. So now you see why I stopped at 24. Okay, if you know your multiplication facts, that's not a hard thing to do right there. The number we've gotten right there is called our LCM, or the least common multiple. And that is what we're going to use as our common denominator. Okay, so now then we have to figure out what we would multiply each denominator by to get that LCM. So you wouldn't be able to clear this off your notes, but I'm going to clear off mine because I'm running out of room quickly. So I would have my 5/8 right here. And I would need to take and multiply that 5/8 times 3/3. Because 3 times 8 is 24. And to that, I remember that I am adding a negative 2/3. Now then, for 2/3, 3 times 8 is 24, so it would be 8/8 right there. Now, what I would get, make it a little bit thicker, is I would get this is 15 24ths, and I'm adding it to a negative 16 24ths. Okay, now, since they have the same denominator, this is much easier. So I'm still going to refer back to my notes when we added integers because this is going to be the same type of deal. If I've got different signs, which I do, then I'm going to subtract and use the sign of the larger number. Okay, so since 16 24ths is a little bit bigger than 15 24ths, my answer is going to be negative. I know that for sure. So 24 minus 24, you don't actually do that. You keep that the same. Remember, in adding and subtracting fractions, once you get a common denominator, you do not subtract or add the denominator. And so then I would do 16 minus 15, and I get 1. So my answer is negative 1 24th. So that is how I would get the answer to that one. And it's the same way with a subtraction problem. I would find a common denominator, and then I would switch it over to an addition problem, and then I would work that addition problem using the addition rules that we followed yesterday. Okay. Now, let's clear this off. How about a problem where we have mixed numbers? Mixed numbers. That could be a little trouble there, but I will tell you it's not much trouble. Let's grab a little different color. And let's say that I've got negative 1 3/5, and I'm going to add to it 2 1/6. Okay. Let me make my 6 a little bit better. Okay. So again, I need fractions here. So I'm actually going to take these and convert these into improper fractions. Now, if you don't remember how to do that, here's a real quick reminder. Okay. So I would multiply here and add up here. So 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, and my denominator is 5. And I'm still going to be negative. So that's negative 8/5. Again, multiply here, add here. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13 over 6. Okay, so now that I've got the same type of problem that I had a while ago, I just need to find a common denominator. In this case, since I know my multiplication facts, I know it's going to be 30. So I would have to multiply this times 5 over 5 and multiply this times 6 over 6. There we go. And I would get, in this case, a negative 48 over 30. And I would add it to a negative 65, or a positive, 65 over 30. Okay. So it's addition, still adding. It's got 2 different signs. So that means I'm going to take the sign of the larger number, which 65 is larger than 48. But I'm still going to be subtracting the numerators. All right, so here's what I do on a case like this. I would say this one, if this was 50, then it would be like a 50 minus 2. So 65 minus 50 is 15, and it's actually going to be 2 more than that. So that would be 17 over 30. So the answer is 17 over 30 because that fraction cannot be simplified anymore. Okay, so that should do it right there.